Hi guys, welcome to a new video. Today I'm gonna show you how to make this Spider-Man friendship bracelet. I'm making this video in English because there are so many people asking me to do it, so yeah. If you like it, please don't forget to give a thumbs up, and if you want more videos in English, please let me know in the comments. So you're gonna need embroidery thread, and I chose red to be my main color, and you also need for the eyes black thread and white. You can use embroidery thread for your base strings, but I'm using a thinner thread. That's why you're gonna see double strings for the base strings, but if you use embroidery thread, you just need one string. Okay, here I'm showing you that my base string is so thin, that's why I'm using double, so it's the same thickness. So if you're using the embroidery thread, you need to cut 5 strings, 1 meter or 39 inches length. As I told you before, my strings are too thin, so I'm using 2 meters length or 80 inches length, I guess. Okay, now that you have your 5 base strings, you're gonna fold them in half and make sure both sides are the same length. I already have a tutorial, but it's in Spanish, on how to make a triangle shape star in nth with odd number of base strings if you want to check it out. But basically you need to take your main color. As I told you before, I chose the red one, and you're gonna, I don't know how to explain this, but basically just watch the video, because with this red string I'll be making the loop, and just see what I'm doing here. Make sure it's the same length with the base strings. And here where I'm pointing with my finger, I'm gonna put some tape to tape it on my table. So I'm gonna put the tape here and secure it on my table. And now I'm gonna start to make the loop with forward-backward knots. And if you don't know how to make them, it's basically you're gonna make a 4 shape and then a P shape, and that's basically a forward-backward knot. As you can see, there's a 4 shape, and then you pull up, and then a P shape and pull up the string, and you're gonna repeat this 22 times until it's 2 centimeters length, but you can do it as many times as you want. Now I'm folding these both sides and tape it on my table. Okay, now on the left side we have 6 strings, and on the right side we have 5 base strings and our main string. So from the left side where we have 6 strings, we're gonna take out 1, but as I told you before, I'm using double strings because mine is too thin, but this counts as 1 string. Okay, Now we're making a backward knot, and this means you have to make a P shape twice. In this string you have to make another backward knot, and as you can see I already made a P shape and then another P shape, so that means a backward knot. And make sure they both sides stays together. On the right side, I'm showing you that I already have a tutorial on how to make the basic knots. Okay, now on this bunch, I'm making a backward forward knot, which means you have to make a P shape first and then a 4 shape and pull up. There are 1, 2, 3, and now I'm taking out one string from each side. So you have 3 strings in the middle and 2 sides. I'm making another backward forward knot. That means a P shape and a 4 shape. Then on these 3 strings you have to make a forward knot. That means you have to make a 4 shape twice, as you can see. I'm making 1 and then 2 and pull up, and then on the 3rd string another forward knot, and lastly I'm making a forward backward knot. Basically every row that you start you have to take out one string from each side until you run out of strings, and you have to end up with 11 strings one by one. And when you go from right to left you have to make backward knots, and when you go from left to right you have to make forward knots. Okay, I just finished my triangle, and basically you have to make what I told you already. I will make 21 rows here, and then the eyes, and then 21 rows more. I'm gonna count my strings. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And this is my lead string. As you can see, the 11th string is the one that I used for the loop. When you go from left to right you make forward knots. When you go from right to left you make backward knots. On the left string you always have to make backward forward knots, and on your right string you always have to make forward backward knots. I'm gonna tape this down, and I'm starting with a backward forward knot on the left side, and on the next following strings you have to make forward knots because you are going from left to right. Okay, here is the first 4 shape and the second one. That's how you make a forward knot. Making 1 and then 2 and pull up, 1 and then 2 and pull up. You make 1, pull up, 2, pull up. This is my last string, and you have to make 1 4 shape and then a P shape, and that means a forward backward knot. Now we finished our first row, and we're making the second row starting with a forward backward knot, as I told you before. On the next following strings, since we're going from right to left, we're making backward knots. You have to make a P shape and pull up, and then another P shape and pull up. And that's basically a backward knot. You keep repeating this. On the last string, I'm making a backward forward knot, which means you have to make a P, pull up, and then a 4 and pull up. And you keep repeating the first and the second row until you have 21 rows in total. I'm gonna finish the rows and I'm gonna see you then. Oh, and I forgot to mention this, but you can make as many rows as you want, but make sure that your lead string ends up on the right side. As you can see, my lead string is on the right side. Here's the pattern that we'll be reading today. You can find it on braceletbook.com. Here's the pattern, and if you see it from right to left, there's one red circle. That means a knot, and I already made a forward backward knot. Now I'll be adding a black thread. I'm taping this here, and I'm taking this string under the base strings, and we have to make a change color. Okay, if you count the black circles, there are 7 black circles, and I'm counting these. There are 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I'm making 7 black knots. And there are 3 strings left, and if you see the pattern, there are 3 red circles. To make a change color, you have to make a half backward knot, and that means you only need to make a P shape once. Here I'm making the P shape, and then I'm gonna take the red string to this side and finish my backward knot with another P shape. Now I take my red string under my 2 first base strings and continue the next 6 knots, which are backward knots, because we are going from right to left. Okay, now that we finish our last knot, I'm gonna take the red string under the first 8 bass strings, and we have to make a color change, making a P-shape ones. And I'm gonna take the black string to the left side and then finish my backward knot with the red string. And put this black string to the right side under my first bass strings. And now I'm making a backward knot. Lastly, I'm making a backward forward knot. For the second row, we are starting from left to right. That means that you have to read your pattern from left to right. And as you can see, there are 2 red circles, and that means 2 knots. I'm making a backward forward knot and then a forward knot, and then we have to make a color change to black because it says we have to make 1 black knot. To make a color change, I'm taking 1 string and then I'm going to make a 4 shape once, and then take this red to the right and finish my forward knot. I'm taking this red to the left, and if you see the picture, there are 5 white circles. That means you have to make 5 knots. I'm gonna tape this down. Here are the first 3 knots that you already made. Now you take the white string under your bass strings and you take 1 bass string and make a half forward knot, which means a 4 shape once. The black string goes to the right and then you finish your forward knot. Take your black string to the left and finish the next 4 knots, making 4 forward knots. I'm taking the last 3 strings so I don't get confused. Now if you see the pattern, it says that you have to make a black knot. That means another color change. You have to make a half forward knot, which means a 4 shape once, and then take this white string to the right and then finish your knot. This white string goes under your bass strings, and then take the red string and you have to make another half forward knot. I hope you know what to do at this point because it's basically the same thing. Now we are starting our third row. and there are 3 red circles, which means 3 red knots. First, I'm gonna be making a forward backward knot and then 2 backward knots. Then a color change to black. We take this down, we finish our knot, and take the red string to the right under your bass strings, and then take the white string, and you have to make 5 knots with the white string. Okay, you'll be ending this row with 2 strings, and I'm gonna show you what to do. You take the white string down and finish your knot, and you have to take both strings under your bass strings. You don't have to make a color change as I taught you before. You just put them under your bass strings and finish your row. Okay, out of context, as I told you, this is my first video in English, so please don't be rude in the comments. Now for the next row, we'll be making 1 red knot and then a color change and then 4 white knots. Okay, with this green arrow, I guess it's called, showing you in which row are we. If you look closely to the pattern, there are some arrows from right to left and from left to right. And when the arrows point to the left, you have to make backward knots, and when the arrows point to the right, you have to make forward knots. Okay, now the pattern says that we have to make 2 red rows as we did when we start the bracelet. Disclaimer, if you think this is too hard for you, I think you should start with easier bracelets so you can practice your knots. Now for this next row, we'll be making 6 knots with the red string, and then we'll be making 3 knots with the black string, and lastly 2 red knots. And for the next 5 rows, continue reading the pattern. After I finish the eyes, I'm gonna make 21 rows with the red string. Now it's easier because you don't have to make any color change. If you made more rows than me, then make sure to make the same rows here. I'm gonna finish my rows and see you after that. Now for the triangle end shape, you're gonna take 2 outer base strings from each side. As you can see, this was my lead string and I'm actually running out of it. I have 2 bass strings from the left side and 2 strings from the right side, and I'm making a backward forward knot on these 2 strings together. Then I continue making forward knots on these strings. Lastly, I'm making a forward backward knot on these 2 strings together. For the next row, I'm gonna add 1 string to each side, so we have 3 on both sides. I'm making a forward backward knot on these 3 strings. Then backward knots. And since I'm running out of red string, I'm adding a new one. And basically to do this, you just make a normal color change. You just tape your new string and pass this new string under your bass strings. Make a half backward knot put your old string down and then finish your backward knot, and then this old string under your base string to the right side, and continue making the normal knots. Every row you start, you'll be adding one base string to each side. Here I'm starting a new row, so we'll have 4 strings on the left side and 4 strings on the right side, and we have 3 strings in the middle. Now this is our last row where we have just 1 string in the middle, and I'm making a backward forward knot on all of the strings together. I'm gonna cut my lead string the same length as my bass strings. I'm adding the lead string to the right side, so we have 6 strings on each side, and I'm gonna make the twisted ties. We separate these 6 strings in half, so we have 3 strings, and we twist them to the left. Now we twist these both sides to the right. Make a regular knot and cut off the excess. Repeat this process on the left side. And there you have it, you finished your bracelet. And for reference, my bracelet is 13 centimeters length. This is how it looks on, and this is how you tie it to your wrist. I hope you guys understand this video, and I hope this was helpful, and if it was, please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.